let's talk about one of the wealthiest monarchs on the entire planet, Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah of Brunei. Now, he rules over this tiny nation that is just dripping in gold, but it's also governed by some of the strictest laws in the world. It's a place of incredible contrasts, and we're going to dive right in.
So, to really wrap your head around the scale of this man's life, we have to start with a number: 1,788. That's how many rooms are in his official residence, the Istana Nurul Iman. I mean, it's not just a palace. It's practically a small city. It's even bigger than the Palace of Versailles.
And okay, from his home, let's head to his garage. Get ready for this next number, 7,000. That's right, 7,000 cars in his private collection. And we're not just talking about a big collection. It is, by a huge margin, the largest and most valuable private car collection on Earth.
And finally, the big one. His personal net worth is estimated to be at least $30 billion. But what's really staggering is that most sources agree this is a very conservative estimate. His actual wealth, it could be much, much higher. Nobody really knows for sure.
So, you might be asking, how does one person even spend that kind of money? Well, this first section is going to give us a little peek into a lifestyle of almost unimaginable extravagance, starting with those famous cars.
I mean, the sheer volume here is just hard to comprehend. We're talking over 600 Rolls-Royces, 450 Ferraris, and almost 400 Bentleys. Just this collection alone is estimated to be worth around $5 billion.
And sitting somewhere in that collection of thousands of cars is the crown jewel, a custom-built, 24-karat gold-plated Rolls-Royce. The Guinness Book of World Records once named it the most expensive car in the world. Honestly, it's less of a car and more of a throne on wheels.
And the Sultan's luxury isn't just stuck on the ground. He owns a fleet of 17 private aircraft, including a Boeing 747 that he calls his Flying Palace. And get this, he spent an extra $120 million just to customize it with things like crystal chandeliers and even solid gold wash basins.
You have to understand, this kind of spending is just routine for him. A single haircut? That'll be $21,000, because he flies his favorite barber in from London. For his 50th birthday, he threw a $30 million party and paid Michael Jackson $17.5 million just to show up and perform. This isn't for some super special occasion. This is just life for the Sultan.
So, where on earth does this kind of mind-boggling fortune come from? For one man and one tiny nation on the island of Borneo, the answer is buried deep, deep underground. Brunei's economy is almost completely fueled by its absolutely massive oil and natural gas reserves. I mean, look at that. These resources make up about 90% of the entire country's GDP. And since the Sultan basically controls the state, every barrel of oil, every bit of gas just adds directly to his immense wealth. It's a system that's built a legendary fortune, for sure.
And that incredible wealth is matched by his political power. See, he isn't just a figurehead king. He's one of the world's last remaining absolute monarchs. The line between the ruler and the state itself is, well, it's completely gone.
Just think about the titles he holds all at the same time. He's the Sultan, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Home Affairs. Pretty much all government power is concentrated right in his hands. And just in case there was any lingering doubt about who's in charge, a constitutional amendment was passed back in 2004 that legally grants him infallibility. Yep, you heard that right. It means that under the law of his own country, he can do no wrong. He is quite literally above the law. So with this backdrop of absolute wealth and absolute power, what is it actually like to live in Brunei as an average citizen? Well, this is where we really start to see the great paradox of the Sultanate. It really all comes down to this central trade-off. On one hand, the country's oil money provides incredible benefits for its citizens. We're talking free education all the way through university, free healthcare, and absolutely no personal income tax. But on the other hand, daily life is governed by some very strict rules, like a total ban on alcohol and mandatory religious observances. And that social contract became even more stark in 2019. That's when the Sultan fully rolled out a very strict interpretation of Islamic Sharia law. This penal code includes punishments like amputation for theft and, yes, stoning to death for things like adultery and homosexuality, which drew massive condemnation from all around the world. Now, despite this image of a peaceful, perfectly run state, the Sultan's reign has definitely not been without some major international scandals. Scandals that have threatened to tarnish that carefully crafted royal image.
Back in 1997, the former Miss USA, Shannon Marketic, filed a lawsuit against the Sultan and his brother, Prince Jeffrey, and she made some truly shocking allegations that she and other women were held against their will in the palace.
But the lawsuit? It never went anywhere. A U.S. court just dismissed the case, and the reason was the Sultan's sovereign immunity as a head of state. It was a really stark reminder that his power extends far, far beyond the borders of Brunei.
But the Sultan's biggest crisis probably came from within his own family. His younger brother, Prince Jeffrey, who was the finance minister at the time, was accused of embezzling billions, with a B, of dollars from the state. After years of legal battles, the Sultan sued his own brother, stripped him of his assets, and Prince Jeffrey eventually became an international fugitive. So, while the Sultan and his controversies cast a very long shadow, it's important to remember that Brunei is more than just its ruler. It's a country with its own unique culture, its own history, and its own identity.
Even the country's full name tells a story. Negara, Brunei, Darussalam. It translates to Brunei, the abode of peace, which really says a lot about the national identity it's trying to project to the world.
And a few final facts here really help paint a more complete picture of this complex nation. For instance, it has a super high literacy rate of 98%, and it was the first country in Asia to completely ban shark finning. Its currency is even interchangeable with the Singapore dollar, which points to a really stable economy. And it's home to the incredible Venice of the East, a huge traditional water village that's been around for centuries.
So in the end, we're left with this nation of really deep contradictions. For its people, it offers a ton of security and prosperity, but it comes at the cost of very strict social and religious control. Which leaves us all with the central question. Is Brunei a peaceful paradise, or is it a gilded cage?